Top 50. Top 50. Underrated NFL wide receivers. Top 50. NFL underrated wide receivers. All right, so let's get into it, man. We got Ricky Sanders on the docket. I remember this dude, man. This guy was definitely an underrated wide receiver for the Washington Redskins at the time. When they had the posse, man. Gary Clark, Ricky Sanders, Art Monk. When you had a dynamic triple threat of receivers, man, that just gave defenses a lot of trouble, regardless of who the quarterback was, whether it be Doug Williams or Jay Schrader, whoever it is, Mark Rippon. You know what I'm saying? These three guys definitely held it down, and I want to talk about it. Number 43, I got Ricky Sanders. I think he's definitely the epitome of an underrated wide receiver for the Washington Redskins. He's one third of the posse, which was a triumphant of receivers that included Gary Clark and Art Monk. And as a Redskin, he made his mark as a deep threat in 1986. He averaged 20.4 yards per catch. And his claim to fame was in Super Bowl 22. Sanders was dominant, man. He caught 9 passes for 193 yards and 2 touchdowns. And at that time, in the Super Bowl, Sanders is the guy that set the records for receiving yards, total yards, most touchdowns in one quarter, most receiving yards in one quarter, and a tie for the longest touchdown receptions, 80 yards. So his best season was in 1988 when he was fifth in the NFL in receiving yards with 1,148 and 12 touchdowns. He's the epitome of an underrated wide receiver. He wasn't up there with the Jerry Rices of the world, Michael Irvins, or people like that, but he definitely was productive. Surprised he put on his total stats. Let's look at his stats. Uh, Ricky Sanders. How many touchdowns, career touchdowns do he have? How many catches do he have? Receiving yards, stuff like that. Let's look at Ricky Sanders. Now, he started his career in the USFL. He played for the Houston Gamblers in 1984-85, but he made his mark, man, truly when he was with the Washington Redskins from 1986 to 1993. Thanks for hitting the like button. Two-time Super Bowl champion. Now, he caught 483 catches for 6,477 yards and had 37 receiving touchdowns. So, not Hall of Famer, no. But he definitely was a good receiver. Underrated, though. Underrated. What he did in that Super Bowl, I just read to you what he did in that Super Bowl. He set records. Something that Jerry Rice didn't do at that time, you know, or after. I don't think Jerry Rice was doing this. Now, he did make some big plays in Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. Jerry Rice was a great receiver in Super Bowl. But I don't know if he set these records first. He's the first to set these records, Sanders. Sanders set all these records at the time. I'm quite sure. Yeah, I think that Super Bowl, obviously, against the Cincinnati Bengals, he did his thing. Scored, a lot of touchdowns against the Broncos. Scored like 3 touchdowns, I believe. But Sanders was the guy that set the records. I'm quite sure. Yeah, if I look it up, Jay Rice probably broke him, surpassed him, or it's like performance in Super Bowls. I gotta look it up. But 9 catches, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns. These were records, right? As far as receiving yards. But I think the following year, Jay Rice might have had close to 200 yards. I gotta look it up in Super Bowl 23. They had like 11 catches, I think so. Gotta look it up. But Sanders was that guy, man. He was great. He was a great at what he did with the Redskins at the time. So as we continue on, let's give reasons why even more, why he's underrated. The reason why Ricky Sanders is underrated because he played the deep threat role in Washington's offense, which required him to stretch the field, open up underneath spaces for legendary targets like Art Monk and Gary Clark. His team first mentality, ability to share the workload matched his elite individual production. He was in the shadow of the posse. Sanders, alongside Monk and Clark, formed the famous posse wide receiver trio, and they were very successful. They became the first in NFL history to record over 1,000 yards receiving in a single season in 1989. And Monk and Clark frequently absorbed the historical spotlight in Pro Bowl honors. Explosive speed as a distraction. Sanders was renowned for his blistering speed, famously clocking an unofficial 4.22 in a 40-yard dash. His role was often to take the top off opposing defenses, which meant his statistical impact was measured by how much space he created for others just as much as his own numbers. The historical Super Bowl dominance. Here we go. One of the greatest games ever played on the biggest stage. He had that game in Super Bowl 22 against the Denver Broncos. He set multiple records in the Super Bowl, catching 9 passes for 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, including an 80-yard score. Because he was a dynamic big game playmaker, casual fans viewed him as a specialist rather than a consistent dominant receiver. Last but not least, the Gibbs system. Joe Gibbs, great coach. He utilizes high balance, runs a heavy scheme, obviously with the Hogs. That offensive line, that match offensive line, John Riggins and those guys, and rotated his personnel seamlessly. So Sanders' numbers was a product of this team first philosophy rather than the pass happy schemes utilized by other teams around the league. So despite his lack of modern era individual awards, Sanders' explosive speed and big play capabilities were the driving engine that helped Washington secure multiple championships. That's why he's underrated. Definitely underrated. We look at Jerry Rice real quick because the following year, I think Jerry Rice surpassed what Ricky Sanders did the following year, Super Bowl 23. Let's look at it. He was the Super Bowl MVP, Jerry Rice. I think he had 11 catches for like 200 yards, something like that. 215 yards. Yes, he did. So think about this. The following year at the Super Bowl 23, with Sanders doing what he did against the Denver Broncos, here comes Super Bowl 23, the 49ers versus the Cincinnati Bengals. And Jerry Rice broke the record that was set the year before with Sanders. 9 catches, 193 yards receiving. Let's look at the catches and the yards receiving. Forget about the touchdowns that he scored. But this the receiving yards in general. I mean, Jerry Rice had 11 catches for 215 yards. So he set the record for receiving yards the following year, 215 yards. So he set that record, yes, but it was broken by him, but it was set by Ricky Sanders. So Ricky Sanders was the first guy to have that many yards in the Super Bowl at that time, 193 yards. And Rice went past it with, 215 yards. That was Super Bowl record. I think 11 catches maybe in a Super Bowl record, maybe. I'm not sure about that, but the 215 yards, that definitely was a record at that time. Definitely. So that's it, man. I'm done with this look at Ricky Sanders. Like, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.